All right. So again, what we're going to talk about today is how your actual meal timing for each individual meal can affect your insulin sensitivity. And so meal timing is going to play a crucial role in regulating insulin sensitivity, which is the body's ability to respond to and utilize glucose effectively. So as you guys all know, once you intake food, you're going to have glucose that is then, put into the bloodstream, and then when it's stored, it turns into glycogen. And at that point, your body essentially has to have the right key to unlock the cell for those nutrients to go in to be utilized. If not, that's when that insulin sensitivity kind of goes in the dirt essentially, and that sensitivity goes down, and your fasted blood glucose, or just blood glucose in general, goes up. There's not enough insulin in the body, or the pancreas can't keep up with the amount of glucose that's in the bloodstream that it has. There's just nothing that it can do, so that number just keeps going up and up and up. Um, so if we look at, kind of one of the main things that of how meal timing can affect insulin sensitivity is the postprandial glucose response. Now, I have some clients who will take blood glucose readings either an hour, or 90 minutes, or even 2 hours after a meal. It really just, kind of depends on, what their day, consists of. But essentially, what I'm looking for there is, let's say if an individual has 4 meals a day and they're waking up with a high fasted blood glucose. Well, let's look and see what actual meal is causing that huge spike, sometime during the day. So they'll eat meal one, and I say, all right, hey, after your last bite of meal one, take me a blood glucose reading 1 hour after that. They'll take it, they'll record it, and they'll do that for all 4 meals during the day. And more times than not, there will be one particular meal that spikes that glucose number just way higher, than it should be. Um, like for instance, I've seen like a typical reading, it would go like, an hour after meal one, it would be like 90. An hour after meal two, like 95. An hour after meal three, it'd be like 140. And then an hour after, meal four is kind of back to normal. So, okay, it's like meal three, something is obviously spiking that number way up in that meal. On our next food change, we'll more than likely do something to that meal to help mitigate that, to where it's not spiking up so hard, causing that longer duration of that number to be so high, if that makes sense. Um, so the timing of your meals can surely impact the body's postprandial glucose response. Typically, like I said, this is 60 to 90 minutes, even up to 2 hours or so after that you take your last bite of your meal. Now, the timing of the blood sugar spikes can vary, but they should peak around that 90-minute mark. And consuming carbohydrates at specific times, such as around a workout, or earlier on in the day, not toward the nighttime kind of thing, can help manage blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity. You want to put as many carbs as humanly possible, in my opinion, around your training, so that they can be utilized properly and will work for us and not against us. So typical, what I typically do is I try to get the majority of somebody's carbohydrates pre and post training. And then if they train hard enough to have an inter workout shake, we can put some there too. Well, I think what is best is if you still have any kind of carbohydrates after your pre and your post, and if you do have an intra shake, the carbs later in the day, in my opinion, should be some kind of berries, some kind of fruit. They shouldn't be some kind of ultra processed carbohydrate, or like a bagel, or anything like that. It should be some fruit. That's just that that's what I think. That's what previous coaches of mine have instilled into me, and it's worked pretty well for me. Um, so for instance, Ren, I was talking to Ernesto earlier, and I had reduced his carbohydrates last week, and he was like, "Well, hey, if we reduce these carbs, can I take some carbs from pre and post training and space them out during the day?" I'm like, "No, still need to keep as many carbs around training as you can." He's like, "Well, I'm getting hungry at nighttime." I'm like, "Well, being hungry is just kind of a part of being in a deficit. It just is what it is. And like I said before on these calls, a lot of people have been in a ultra surplus for 30, 40, 50 years. A lot of people can stand to be just a little bit hungry to get to where they need to be, right? And so once I kind of explained that to him, I'm like, hunger is not a bad thing. Now, if you're, obviously this does not pertain to Jennifer who is in, contest prep. But if you're, lightheaded all day, if you're dizzy, if you're that hungry and it's altering your day-to-day life, then for sure that needs to be mitigated. But hunger at some point in the day is good for everybody, I think. Um, so now moving on to number two, which is your circadian rhythm. Now, as you guys know, your circadian rhythm is your body's internal clock, which will influence your insulin sensitivity. So, eating meals in alignment with your circadian rhythm, such as consuming larger meals earlier in the day and lighter meals in the evening, is always going to be better, and it's going to support optimum insulin function. That's why me personally, I always have better biofeedback on my check-in days, or as compared to when I would train like late in the evenings. I was having a ton of carbohydrates, right before bed because that's when I trained all the time. Me having them earlier in the day, that's glucose number is going to slowly traject downward as the day goes on. Granted, if you follow by that thought process of a lot of your carbohydrates either around training or more earlier in the day to where they can taper off kind of as the sun goes down if you want to keep into alignment with your circadian rhythm. Now, this is easier said than done, especially for people who work swing shift, night shifts, to where that circadian rhythm is just out the window. I mean, I used to do it. I used to work 7 days in a row, have 7 days off, and then work 7 nights in a row. That sucked, and it really threw a lot of my stuff off. Um, but there's obviously ways to help mitigate that, and I did things such as like install a blackout curtains, make the room very very cold. I tried my best to get in bed as soon as I could and just try to um, mimic those conditions, right? To where I try. I guess the easiest way to say this is I try to get home before the sun come up, if all possible. That way, that I'm not like my brain's like, oh crap, there's the sunrise. It's going to be super hard, for you to go to sleep now because this is normally the time that people get up. So, but again, when you work third shift, you just kind of have to do what you can do, wear a sleep mask, wear blackout curtains, things like that. But again, just trying to keep that circadian rhythm in rhythm is going to be your best bet, with keeping that insulin sensitivity in check. Now, if we look at something else like intermittent fasting, these involve cycling between periods of eating and fasting, which have shown to improve insulin sensitivity. I don't think it's like some people claim that fasting is like the godsend for better insulin sensitivity. I don't think it's that great. I mean, it's obviously there's are some benefits to it, but there's obviously some downfalls to it as well too. Um, I think one of the biggest things though is fasting. These periods of fasting can help lower the insulin levels and increase the body's its sensitivity to insulin when the food is consumed. And I think intermittent fasting it can be great for some people, but just like every other diet, it involves a caloric deficit, and so that's the main thing, and that should be your main focus. If that's what you're using that intermittent fasting for, which is what a lot of people utilize that method for, is to lose weight. But again, even though at the forefront of all that, you got to be in a caloric deficit. And if you want to really optimize how you lose the weight, your insulin sensitivity just has to be in check. Now, I want to add, I could probably add one thing to that as far as fasting goes, and not even really talking about like intermittent fasting, but just like fasting in general. Um, now this isn't going to be really focused on insulin sensitivity. But if you were to, have some digestive issues to where it's probably best that you took a full like 24 day, or not 24 day, a 24-hour fast, right? You could probably check your blood glucose that morning and see that it's probably a heck of a lot lower than what it normally is. You're essentially just giving your body a break, and your body is able to catch up, and your pancreas is not working double time trying to keep up, with everything that you normally consume. So, that's just kind of a little experiment that you could do for yourself if you do end up having to do a longer duration fast, which, I think is a good thing. I do them every now and again. It's not my favorite. I don't like not eating for 24 hours, but sometimes it would, I mean, it is beneficial in some aspects. And then the last thing is going to be just regular, consistent meal timing. Eating your meals at consistent times each day will help regulate insulin levels and improve that insulin sensitivity. It's also going to help with digestion too. Um, Irregular meal patterns or just simply just skipping the meals can disrupt that insulin function and lead to fluctuations in your blood sugar levels. Not only knowing the that previous information, but having that set meal schedule will ensure that you get all of your meals in, and they'll be properly spaced out. Because look, if you, I don't know, if you get busy at work and you get, a one or two meals behind, where normally your blood glucose might spike up to, I don't know, 90 to 100 after that meal. But now you're down in two meals back to back, or a meal and then 30 minutes later, another meal just to keep up. Well, you're going to be sky high. I mean, you might be, I don't know, 140, 150, 160. And if you're eating that at the end of the day, that's going to carry on into the next day. So you just have to think, you know, consistent meal timing is something that we all should just try to be doing anyway. Like for me, I mean, I have timers, set on my phone when it's time to eat. I don't care what I'm doing. I'll stop and go eat, just to be sure that everything is spaced out properly. Um, now outside of all four of those things, um, meal timing isn't shouldn't be at the forefront of everybody's maybe thought process, right? Like everybody gets too hyper focused on, all right, I gotta, meal timing post workout. I gotta eat this 30 minutes before. I gotta eat this an hour after, kind of thing. For a lot of people, just mastering the basics needs to be done first. Once you can master that, then you can look into things such as, meal timing, things like that. I don't care if your meal timing is the best, if it's better than me, if it's better than the best dieter in the world, but if your meals are off, I mean, it just doesn't matter. You got to master the basics first. Is essentially what I'm saying there. Um, Outside of that, that's really the top four things that I think. The top four reasons as to why that I think that meal timing, plays a pretty crucial role in that insulin sensitivity. Again, if you guys, um, ever have a day to where you're backed up, you're behind schedule on your meals, just out of curiosity, check your fasted blood glucose the next morning. Just see what it is. See what it is as compared to a normal day, and you can see for yourself how screwed up that can make that. And let's just say if that happens for 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, that compounding effect is eventually going to catch up to you. So it's just something to think about. But outside of that, did all that make pretty good sense? I know that was a lot better versed than last week's, and I hope this thing will save today it better, because I don't want to have to record it again. Yeah, has anybody got any questions with how any of that stuff works? Without all that stuff make pretty good sense, or just questions in general about anything?
No, I think that made sense. I think the one thing that I was curious about, you said that occasionally you will do like a fast, like a full 24-hour fast. Like, is there like some sort of regular occurrence that you kind of recommend that? Because I feel like I've read some stuff from you before on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't do it. I don't have it set to where like every 3 months I do a fast or something. What it really boils down to is how my appetite is, how my digestion is. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, man, I don't even feel like eating nothing. Like my stomach's still full from last night. My digestion's off. I didn't have my normal bowel, movements the day before. Then I might say, okay, depending on what the day looks like, right? I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna do a full 24 hour fast. And in a perfect world, what you would do there, go to the dollar store, go to Walmart, buy one of those little 10-ounce bottles of magnesium citrate. It's a little clear liquid. You would drink that the night before the fast. So like eat your last meal, 7, 8 o'clock, and then right before bed. Let's say that you go to bed at 10 o'clock. Down that little 10-ounce bottle. It's like $1.25 or something. Down that entire bottle. And this is not like you're going to be explosively on the toilet all day, but it's going to make you pretty regular, all day long to where it's going to help clear out the GI tract. And at the same time, you're not exiting stuff while you're also putting stuff in. So, like, you're getting your GI tract cleared out and you're getting all that stuff out. So, the next morning, a good general rule of thumb is if you do the 24-hour fast. Now, granted, you drink a ton of water with this too to help flush things out too. If you wake up the next morning and you're not like overly hungry, do another 24. Don't do another magnesium citrate, but just do another 24 and then wake up the next morning. If you're again not hungry, do it again. I've done it for 4 days in a row at one time. Granted, I dropped like 10 or 12 pounds. Granted, that was just water weight and a lot of glycogen storage that was gone. But that came back, within a week or so. One way to tell that you should start the fast again, for me personally, is I'll wake up and I'm like, man, I want a Bojangles biscuit or something. Like it's something that I don't even normally want to eat at all, but I have like a wild craving for. Then that leptin and ghrelin, your hunger signaling is back to where it needs to be. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and ease into the meal plan. And typically on that first day, you're not, unless you're in a pretty, decent deficit. If you're in, eating 3, 4, 5,000 calories, you're probably not going to be able to just jump right back into that. You
Yeah.
could you can probably eat 3 or 4 meals and then you'll probably be full. Don't force it down. If you force it down, you're going to be right back in the same boat as you were the day before. So just easing back into it. You might eat 3 meals on the first day, 4 meals the next day, and then back up, to your full 5 meals, that day, or the third day after, and you'll probably feel a hell of a lot better too. So, so, but yeah, I don't know. I don't do them all. I think the last time that I've done one, I typically do a fast like that on my last day of vacation. If I'm traveling or something, I don't want to be carrying food around.
Yeah.
I've ate not the best all week. I'm just gonna fast. That in once I wake up, I'm like, okay, yeah, the family's gonna want to go to Cracker Barrel. They're gonna want to stop at QT six times and get whatever. I'm just gonna not eat
Yeah.
anything at all. And then the next day I wake up and I'm good to go. So
Yeah.
It's
Sweet.
kind of the tip you gave me too. That's worked out pretty well. Is if I know I'm going to go into a weekend where I can't control what's going on, like I might just fast a couple meals instead of putting things in that are going to make me feel like crap. So
yep. Yep, and that's another thing too. Just like you said, I mean, there'll be times to where such as for like like Thanksgiving or something. I know that I'm probably going to eat at least 2 plates on Thanksgiving dinner. As everybody should enjoy a Thanksgiving dinner. I didn't get to do it last year because I was on prep. So this year I'm definitely doing it. Um, but I mean, so for those first 3 or 4 meals during the day, I wasn't forcing anything down. I mean, I was still eating 50 to 60 grams of protein in those meals, but it was like really just protein and veggies. Now I was hungry from the time I woke up until the time that I got to Thanksgiving dinner. Now I wasn't like overly hungry to where I was gonna be ravenous and just eat anything that I wanted to, but all that protein as well too, kind of helped with that satiety. But it also kept my calories on the lower side to the point where if I wanted to get another helping of mac and cheese or corn or whatever, that caloric intake would allow for it. So, but but yeah. Outside of that, how are you feeling, Miss Jennifer? Hang on. Can you get it?
Yep.
There you
Yep.
go.
Okay. I'm feeling okay. I feel very weak today. Very weak and fragile. I noticed it in the gym, like it was just if I had to bend over, I was not feeling well to stand back up straight. But I made it through and it was good. I'm get my food in now. My one of my concerns is, I cramp a lot, and I know I'm not doing sodium or anything in my food when we're there. And am I going to have to? My biggest fear is to cramp up on stage. So
There's going to be sodium in your food. There'll be sodium in there.
there will be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw it said bring salt, but not to cook it with
Yes.
any. Right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Just so that we can control how much is on there is
I
what it
think
is.
when we did our kind of like mock run this last week, when I cramped and couldn't get out of the bathtub for like 30 minutes because my abs kept locking up, that's where the fears come from now.
Yeah.
But I
No.
think that will be good.
Yep. 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 We'll be good. Yep.
Okay.
That's what separates the people who want to prep and people who don't want to prep is the last week or 2 weeks of contest prep is can you hold on for 2 more weeks to really get through that depletion phase? But you guys are killing it. So
Oh, I'm determined. I'm going to make it. So we're almost there.
yep. 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 You'll make it. Well, all right. Well, if anybody else don't have any more questions,
Nope.
we will sign off and go from there. So,
Bye, guys.
all right. Bye, y'all.
Yeah.
Well,
Bye.
Jennifer.
Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You'll have a good one.